Okay, so the second Rugby League Ashes test has just finished up in Liverpool at the new Everton Stadium between England and Australia. It's finished 14 points to 4 to Australia. They win the series and the game. It was 4-4 at half time. England were the better side in the first half. Two no tries to England in the first half. There is a no try to Australia in the second half. There's a brilliant 40-20 by Nathan Cleary, which technically is fantastic. And there's also officiating yet again. There was a lot of complaints after last week's officiating performance, mostly by Australian fans, but also by some England fans as well, with the Super League referee that we had. We have an NRL referee. Now, I think Grant Atkins is one of the better NRL refs. He's one of the best refs in the game, in the sport. But the video ref Smith is a Super League ref, and that left a lot to be desired with some of the decisions taken in the bunker with the TV referee review. Now, it's 4-4 at half time. Second half, England just fall apart, in my opinion. They lose their attacking shape. When they have the extra man, they're too deep. They look more fatigued. They put a lot of effort into the first half. They unsettled Australia in the first half, got under their skin. It leads to the first set of handbags after just 2 minutes, which leads to 2 sin bins. Big Tino and Dom Young get sent for 2 minutes. Now, personally, I think Litton's been held in after the tackle by Harry Grant, the ultimate shyster, I think is the term you can use Harry Grant lovingly, because he really is a nuisance, both in defence and attack. But other players come in. Big Tino's the first on the scene, then Dom Young somehow gets sent. I understand why Grant Atkins wants to, just stop that. I understand that. He decides, with the video ref assisting, he's going to sin bin those 2 players. He goes, right, you're being singled out. Any number of players, if we're going by that measurement, could be sin binned. I think that's the only point where I think Grant Atkins gets that wrong. I think a penalty would have just sufficed to either side. Is Harry Grant at fault? Is Litton at fault? I don't know. Nathan Cleary slots the resulting penalty on 3 minutes. Harry Smith responds with the penalty, because Australia are also being ill-disciplined in this first half, on 9 minutes. And Australia don't settle after that. In fact, England were the better side. They had more possession, they completed more sets, more territory. The Morgan Knowles no try comes from a Reece Walsh mishandling on a kick through. He knocks it on, and then Morgan Knowles knocks on. He just needs to be a little bit more patient. Bit of white line fever from the big forward there. It does happen, but that's a crucial moment on 21 minutes. 2 minutes later, Dom Young doesn't quite get enough downward pressure and control on a kick through from Herbie Farnworth. Some 23 minutes. There's 2 knock-ons. On another day, better conditions, because it has rained a lot this week in the build-up to the match, and it did rain during the match. The pitch is less greasy. There's less zip, for example, on the playing surface, which is a football surface. Soccer for our Australian cousins down under. And there would be less zip, and he would have better downward pressure and control and would score that try. I think the Morgan Knowles one is a bit more frustrating, because all he's got to do is just be a bit more patient, a bit more calm, and just pick the ball up and place it, and he tries to scoop. It's just a rush of blood there by a player who doesn't score a lot of tries. It's a big forward. It happens. But from the resulting phases, England have been camped in Australia's half. Discipline. Discipline lets England down. Nathan Cleary slots a penalty on 25 minutes, because they go down the other end. And, 2 entries, 2 penalties. Now, the captain's challenge, which is unsuccessful because Grant Atkins thinks there might be a knock-on. Now, Cameron Munster's gone in for a tackle, shoulder on the ball. It looks like it's bobbled. In fact, Dom Young has actually controlled the ball, kept control of the ball, and swapped hands. Now, Grant Atkins is not 100% certain, but he thinks there's been a knock-on. Dom Young, very certain he hasn't knocked it on, asks for a captain's challenge. George Williams goes, I want to challenge that. That isn't a knock-on, he just changes hands. So I don't know what Smith, the video referee, is doing there, but that is embarrassing. I do agree with commentary with that one. That is an embarrassing video ref decision. And I see a lot of complaints about the quality of refereeing in the Super League. And we do see it in the NRL as well, where certain referees get, a lot of criticism than others. But that is embarrassing. There is no loss of control or contact with Dom Young with the ball. That is not a knock-on. That is embarrassing, and that is quite concerning about the standard of Super League refereeing. There was a lot of complaints coming out of last week's game with the quality, the refereeing performance, but that is embarrassing. Grant Atkins obviously has to go with what the video ref has seen, and he has to award the scrum to Australia. Now, that is a blunder. Now, the Cleary 40-20 is brilliant. That's with the wrong foot for the angle you need on the outside of the right foot. In that position, you want a left-footed kicker for that kind of 40. He does it with the right. Outside of the foot, gets some bend on it as well. Now, I will say this about the 40-20. The actual line markings on the field were not great. They weren't very visible. Now, look, it's a new stadium. It's only been open for a few months. It's only hosted, double figures in football matches at this point. It's the first ever rugby league match played at the new stadium. But the pitch markings, the football regular Premier League Everton pitch markings for the football club were actually, in my opinion, more visible than the rugby league markings for the test match. And that 40-20 is actually better because, well, that's just muscle memory at this point for Nathan Cleary. But when you are a player, you also will have your visual markings where you can say, right, okay, I've now got my bearings a little bit. I'm using that. Is a brilliant 40-20. Now, Australia don't take advantage of that 40-20 because they're not playing particularly great this first half. They are sloppy, they are scrappy. England are making it scrappy. The conditions are helping England. It's very English conditions. And it is a much improved energy performance, defensive performance in that first half. And right at the end of the half, Australia, a bit more real discipline. Harry Smith slots a penalty just before half-time at 39 minutes, and it finishes 4-4 at half-time. It's the second half where England just lose their way completely. Defensively and in attack. The Cameron Munster try, there is an obstruction there. If we're going by what we've seen in the Super League and NRL for several seasons now, with the current interpretation of obstruction and running behind, Cameron Munster's try should not have stood. Now, yes, Angus Crichton doesn't make any contact with any of the England defenders, so they can still shift across, but he's there, he's in the line, and Munster runs behind him. And he just runs behind him. Now, if Angus Crichton continues his run through the line and doesn't touch anyone, that wouldn't be obstruction. He stands still. Now, it doesn't prevent the edge defence shifting over, but it does distract the defenders and they stop a little bit, and then Munster does Munster things and scores. And that's on 49 minutes. But that is obstruction. By the letter of the law, with what we've seen, and again, the video referee's involved. Ryan Atkins, while he gives the trial and field, goes, check for obstruction. Smith, the video ref, goes, there's no obstruction there. So we're not even getting that consistency that we see in the regular season at club level, at test level. And that's frustrating. I don't think... And again, that's what we've seen in the NRL and the Super League, is that's generally called as obstruction. The Hudson Young try, however, I think England are frustrated by that try being given. They got a bit flustered. They're obviously a bit annoyed. They just lose their focus. Hudson Young is a very, very good player. Very good back row forward. I'm a Raiders fan. I love Hudson Young. He's an agitator as well. He's a little shyster. Much like Harry Grant. Gets under the opposition player's skin. He will annoy them. He will aggravate them. He also does give away some silly penalties and sometimes lets his emotions get the better of him and lets the opposition get under his skin. But you want Hudson Young in your team rather than against you. That's the best way I can put Hudson Young. He scores a try in 53 minutes. Cleary does convert that when he missed the conversion with Cameron Munster's try. And this is where I think England have lost the game. They've lost their focus. They've lost their composure with the first try. They didn't really take advantage of all that possession they had in the first half. They've had 2 no tries because of knock-ons. Now, also Cameron Munster, they're looking also for a potential double movement, but the momentum, it's a greasy surface. He's going over the line. Now, England aren't out the game at this point. Let's be clear on this. They're not out the game at this point, but they've... The sin binning. Reece Walsh. Again, it's a great kick. It's a contestable kick. Now, Dom Young is coming through. He's the attacker. Adokar is the defender. They're the 2 wingers going for the ball. Reece Walsh is obviously the fullback, and he starts from some distance away, and he's got to get across. Regardless if Adokar gets contact on that ball or not, or Dom Young, neither of them have full control. The ball has now gone out. Technically, it's now in touch. Reece Walsh has no hope in hell of A, competing for that ball, and B, making a legal challenge. What then happens is the ball's gone into touch. Adokar is now out of the game in a defensive sense. He's nowhere near if the ball lands in the in-goal or anything like that. He's out of the game. He's challenged for the ball. He's made contact with the ball. Fair challenge. Reece Walsh does not make a fair challenge. He aims for Dom Young's head, shoulder first. He turns his body, and that shoulder pings Dom Young in the head. There is no attempt to win the ball there. He hasn't got a hope in hell. He's entered the frame far too late. The ball's in a different postcode. If the ball is there and it's challengeable, and both Adokar and Reece Walsh are both challenging Dom Young for the ball, I think it's a different debate we are having. The ball's gone dead. Adokar's now out of the game in a positional sense because he can't, if there's a knockdown. Dom Young, the ball's gone. He's just carrying through with his momentum. And Reece Walsh, he's flown in there and he clears out Dom Young head first, pretty much with his shoulder. Flat, and Reece Walsh has obviously got a height disadvantage, but he's come at pace, but he's not even in the same postcode when the kick is being contested. Now again, this goes up to the video ref, and Grant Atkins is obviously seen as no try because no one's close to putting the ball down because it's gone out of play. So that part of the phase of play is dead. Reece Walsh, however, and I will say this, I think should have been sent. I think he's lucky he gets a sin bin. In my opinion, I think he's very lucky just to sit for 10 minutes. That for me is a send-off. Now the reason why I say that's a send-off is a couple of years ago in the NRL we saw a similar incident where Joey Marnie of the Sydney Roosters at the time is taken out by Latrell Mitchell of the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Now it's not a contestable kick kind of in situation. It's a Joey Marnie who's being tackled. He's dropping, yes, but it's a similar fullback coming across to assist in the defensive play. And Latrell Mitchell just flies in and aims for Joey Marnie's head and basically tries to decapitate him. It led to a very serious head injury for Joey Marnie, which required surgery, led to a depressed fracture of his cheekbone, which, if it was in another position, could have technically caused blindness in that eye. Now, it led to a massive flare-up. Joey Marnie missed a lot of games. I think he missed the rest of the season. And Latrell Mitchell got a lengthy suspension. And there was a lot of discussion about the fact that Latrell Mitchell only got a sin bin for a very similar incident where, look, he's got no hope of making a clean tackle. Joey Marnie's being tackled, right? And he flies in with head contact, shoulder first, to the head. Absolutely no control. And Reece Walsh has done the same. I disagree fundamentally with the commentators. Now, I get James Graham. He's a very passionate guy when it comes to head contact, concussion, and he's got his views on it. And his views have changed over time, and he says that's just a penalty. Jonathan Davis, however, if I have to listen to his commentary one more time, I'd much rather have stage 4 brain tumour than listen to Jonathan Davis, because Jonathan Davis is like Greg Alexander. It just makes you want to have a paralysing stroke. Sorry, not going to lie. I'm sorry, but I disagree fundamentally with the commentary, the English commentary. I don't know what the Australian commentary was like for the incident, because I didn't have the Fox feed, I had the BBC feed, but for me, that is a red card. Now, as a result of that, obviously Australia are down to 10 players. They're the better side, down to 12 players. I'm thinking football here. They're down to 12 players. The resulting 10 minutes, they're the better side. England, they're too deep in attack. They're not going to the right-hand side, where obviously there's now a dysfunction. You know, Australia are very set on their right edge defence. Their left edge defence is a bit more up in the air because Cameron Munster's having to go to fullback. And England are too deep. They're dysfunctional, they're clunky, and Australia nearly get a try through Cameron Munster. There is a knock-on. Big Tino is tackled, knocks the ball on. Cameron Munster touches the ball down. And that is, the end of it in regards to scoring opportunities, in my opinion. But Australia were the better side with a player off the field than England. And there were a few boos at full time. I think England's performance was better for the first 45 minutes than the entirety of the first test at Wembley. Australia's performance wasn't great. Even in the second half, it wasn't great. They were still not fully settled, although as the second half wore on, they got a bit more comfortable in the game. The weather conditions suited England. I think they're lucky Reece Walsh, doesn't get sent. I think the video ref has had a shocker, but England still have massive, massive problems. Massive problems. That attack was blunted. Second half was poor. Now, Harry Smith, I think, had a very good game in that first half, but as the second half wore on, I don't think he was getting the support from George Williams. I know George Williams is the captain, and that's what Sean Wayne has gone with. But Herbie Farnworth looked frustrated with some of the ball he was receiving. Both wingers, I think Johnson and Dom Young, they've done their best. They've done their carries. I think AJ Brimson, he must start game 3. I think Brimson had a decent game. Brimson, Johnson, Dom Young, and Herbie Farnworth have all had really, and Wardle, the outside backs have had a really good game for England. However, the halves, well, Harry Smith played well. I think George Williams, when he's calling the plays, the outside backs and the back row forwards, they're too deep. I think the forward pack numbered up well, but that attack, I mean, they're too deep. The fact they were outplayed with an extra player is poor. Overall, a better performance, but they got flustered at key moments. Yes, you could argue Cameron Munster's try is an obstruction, but even then, Hudson Young's try is brilliant play. I don't know where England go from here. The performance is better, but I'm still, personally, as a fan, the fitness, they did tire, and they had a lot more of the ball in the first half. Australia were doing a lot of defending. They looked more tired. And then as the game wore on, they got more frustrated. And it is with the distribution. I think Lytton has put in a shift at dummy half. And that was a shift he's put in. He looked tired by the end. He's really tried, but I think a lot of the issues, I think a lot of people are right to go, is George Williams the right guy to be in the halves to help direct players, that experienced playmaker? Harry Smith was an upgrade on what they had last week. But when they're attacking, there's too much depth. They need to be flatter. Australia, they allowed themselves to get unsettled. They didn't settle into the game. Some key players didn't play particularly well. Reece Walsh did not have a good game. Munster, while he gets his try and gets lucky, I think, he was crucial. Nathan Cleary, great game in defence, great 40-20, and was just doing his job. Was it Nathan Cleary's best game? Probably not. Was it his worst game? No. I think, however, proper test match. I think it's a proper test match, but I think there's a room for it. There's a lot of things England needs to do a lot better. And again, a lot of that comes down from the coach as well. On the Australia side of things, look, they've won the series. They're 2-0 up in the test series. They can make some changes for the third test in Leeds next weekend. I expect them to make changes. I expect them to rotate. But they're trying to go for a whitewash clean sweep. And honestly, was that England's best opportunity to get something out of this series? I think it was. We'll see what happens. Frustrating as an England fan, but not surprising that we're 2-0 down. We'll see what changes happen for the third test for both sides. The series is dead now. It is a dead rubber, but you want to take something out of it. And I think the second test, with the way England played in that first half, I think was the opportunity. They had Australia unsettled, and then Australia were allowed to settle into the game. So it is what it is, and they weren't at their best. So just imagine if Australia did play to their full potential, this could have been quite an ugly scoreline. But England unsettled them. The conditions helped, but still not good enough. But there we go. Australia win the series, win the test match. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below, and I'll have some more content for you all very, very soon.